This is Jamal Saeed to you, speaking to you from Dubai, and I welcome you to this webinar on about the professional manager. For those of you who have attended with me before, I welcome you back, and for those of you who are first time attending a webinar with me or with Meirc, I welcome you, and we hope to see you on a regular basis. So today's topic is very interesting. The professional manager, what does it mean? What does it mean to you? Because you might be a manager, and if you're performing very well, the question is, how do you keep performing very well? If you have concerns about your performance or about certain things that you are doing in the company, how do we tackle those concerns? It could also be about you becoming a manager very soon. So if that's the case, congratulations. But what does it mean to you? Because normally becoming a manager is an important aspect and an important milestone in your life. So we will be covering a few things in this webinar, and just to let you know that this webinar is a very brief summary of the Certified Professional Manager course that we give. It's a 5-dayer and it is a certified one, so if you happen to attend with us, you will be taking an exam, which is very good, and you get a certificate as Certified Professional Manager, which you can reflect in your CV, as well as you can you will get another certificate from CMI, which is the certified certificate from the Management Institute. It's a UK-based institution, very well recognized. CMI, we call it CMI. So anyway, let's go ahead and start. I don't want to keep you waiting. You are here to attend this course. So again, my name is Jamal Saeed, and I welcome you to this hour that we're going to be spending together. So here we go. Now, I'm a senior consultant with Meirc. Very quickly, I have assumed many managerial positions across different elements of the organization. Yes, I have worked as a junior manager and then middle manager and then senior manager. So in many ways, you can say that I have a fair understanding of how management works. And I hope that I can share with you some of my experience through the slides that I'm going to show you today. Now, a little bit about my background. So for those of you who have attended with me before, my apologies. But for those of you who have first time with us, I have worked for Pepsi-Cola International in the past, as well as Sun Microsystems and Cisco in different capacities, progressing throughout my career, thank goodness. And now I'm working with Meirc, and I am privileged to be sharing with you my experience, and I hope to see you in future courses if you happen to be interested in joining one of these courses in the future as part of your development. Always remember, never attend a course unless you develop yourself, okay? Because that's your future. The most important person on this webinar is you. So when you attend a course or a webinar, always think, how can I become better? That's something very important. You as an individual, you should always ask yourself, how do I become better in my job, in my profession? And I cannot stress this enough. You are a very important asset, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So, objective of this webinar, we're going to be covering different management functions. We're going to be talking about competencies. We're going to be talking about coaching. I love coaching, so I'm going to be talking about coaching a little bit. I'm going to be talking about motivation, okay, and I'm going to be covering leadership as well. If we have time, we'll get into the how do you solve certain challenges. But in reality, just to be on the safe side, the main topics are the following. So this is the agenda, as you can see. Defining management. What is management? What does it mean? Managerial competencies. What are the things you have to watch out for? How can you leverage coaching? Or what does it mean to you? And then, of course, motivation is very important. So if you feel that I'm talking sometimes a little bit on the upper scale, remember, this is a course that is condensed to an hour. It's a 5-day course, But rest assured, if you happen to join us, we go into these things in a very, very nice way. And you can feel that you are really, really getting a lot of information and lots of experience. And then what is leadership? Why, as a manager, I'm talking about leadership? That's something very important as well. Leadership is something that is becoming critical in a manager's life. And I want you to remember that. Okay, I want you to remember that. It's very important. So here we go. I hope that you enjoy the ride. My first slide, just to let you know how things work and operate, I have a set of questions. I'm going to be polling you. I'm going to be asking you to answer some questions. The reason I do this is basically to keep the webinar go ahead and try to answer. All right, try to answer this question. I'm going to give you some time to, think about it, because this is very critical. Just read it very carefully. I want you to read very carefully. And management is the production of acceptable results within known constraints and conditions. Let's see. Think about it. I want you to think about it, because one of the key things about management is you have to have the critical thinking, and we will cover that in a minute. All right, so we have some good participation. I'd like to see more, a little bit more. Okay, let's make sure that we answer. Think about it. Yeah. Is it the production of acceptable results within known constraints and conditions? I'll give everybody another 10 seconds. Good job, well done. We have a surge of answers here. That's very good. I'm glad that you're responding. Ahmed Al-Umran is saying false. Abina is also saying false. Oh, well, I'll give you the answer in a minute. Okay, I'll give you the answer in a minute. Okay. We have almost halfway. I'm just going to give you 5 more seconds, because this is very important question. That's where things start, guys. That's where things start. All right. So I'm gonna stop end the voting, share with you the results. Okay. Here we go. For those of you who haven't been able to participate, my apologies, but pay attention, because I have a few of these polls this time around. I want to make it as interactive as possible. So here we go. Let me share with you the results. Now, here's the result. You are saying that many of you said false, many of you said true. 34% of you said true. Those who answered, 22 out of 43 participants, said true. To those of you who said true, well done. To those of you who said false, don't get upset, okay? But let me explain the concept of management. And then we will go into management in a very big way. You see, at the end of the day, as a manager, yes, you are responsible to produce results. As a manager, your responsibility is to deliver results. Okay? You might say, but Jamal, I'm working very hard. That's okay, but I want results. You see the difference? Now, when you are managing the production of acceptable results, you never, ever get everything. You can never get everything. You will never get all the people you want. You will never get all the money you want. So, you have to work with constraints. Those constraints is actually, the constraints are actually the policies of the company, the resources that you have, and the conditions, of course. It could be market conditions, it could be legal conditions. So you as a manager, you have to use your abilities, competencies, capabilities to deliver the results despite the constraints and conditions. So the answer is true. For those of you who answered false, I hope that I was able to explain to you in a good way. Remember, you are always responsible to deliver acceptable results. And why did we say acceptable results? Have you ever thought about it? Why do we say acceptable? You see, when you are a manager, you have to, in many ways, talk about the goals with your management. You have to discuss these goals and say, what am I responsible for? Based on that, when you accept the goals, you accept the results as well. You see how powerful this definition is. This is one of the most powerful definitions that you can have when it comes to management. Let me go back to the slide and kick off the slides for you. So here we go. Well done to all of you who participated. So here was the question. I asked you this question, okay? And I asked you whether management is a production of acceptable results with the non-consistent condition, and the answer is true, okay? Now, so management, this is the definition. And this definition came from Fiorina. And I don't know how many of you know Fiorina. She was the head of HP at some stage. And recently she was running for US president as well. Okay, so she's a very, very capable lady. And when I heard this definition, it clicked for me. I said, you know what? This is a very good definition. So when we talk about management, where do managers sit in the organization? This is a hierarchy of your organization. Many of you are working for companies, and in these companies, you have the following. You are either part of the staff, you are either a first-line manager, you could be a middle manager, or you could be top manager, okay? So this is very important. First-line manager, sometimes we also might hear the word, supervisor. But management is very important, okay? This is very, very important. And that is why management actually sits in different tiers of the organization. And this tier, you can imagine yourself where you are. Am I a first-line manager, supervisor? Am I part of the staff and I'm preparing myself to become a manager? Or am I in the middle management where I could be heading a team or heading a department? And top manager where you could be a senior vice president, and I hope all of you become senior vice president, guys. I hope all of you become, all right? So what does the manager do then? So a manager is a person who plans, organizes, leads and controls the allocation of a human, material, financial, and information resources in pursuit of organizational goals. You see, when the manager agrees with the company on these goals, they start agreeing on the results, because every goal should have an outcome. And this is very, very critical. This is very critical. You have to understand that by planning, organizing, leading, and controlling the allocation of human resources, money, whatever it is, you are pursuing and trying to deliver organizational goals. All right? So here comes the next question for you. So please remember this, that it is a very important definition of a manager. Okay? Now, here we go. Managers do not need to worry about ethics in the workplace. You might be asking, Jamal, come on, what does ethics have to do with management? So here we go. Can you please answer the following question? Let me see. Managers do not need to worry about ethics in the workplace. Hey, I'm glad that many of you are answering the right answer. I'm not going to tell you which one it is. Fred gave me an answer, as well as Abina. Thank you, guys. Mahmoud as well is on board. Thank you, Mahmoud. Welcome back. Praveen as well. Thank you, guys, for participating. I'll give you another 5 seconds, and then I will try to close the voting, because as I said, we are a little bit tight on time. I want to make sure that at the end of the day, I'm able to go through all the slides. So here we go. Are you ready? For those of you who did not vote, my apologies. So we're going to end the vote right now. So I'm going to share the results with you. Here we go. So this is what you said. And I'm very proud of you, because all of you said false. As a matter of fact, one of the toughest jobs for managers today is running business ethically. Okay, this is very important. And I cannot stress the ethics of management. I cannot stress it enough. And I want you to always to remember, always use ethics as a shield to protect, your activities in the company and your contribution to the company. Because you're going to be faced with lots of challenges, things that would challenge your ethics or the ethics of the company. Okay, so let me continue with the slides then. Here we go. What are ethics? I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I like to leave you with a flavor. Ethics are a set of moral principles that guide a person's behavior. But when we come to the company, managers also have to think of ethics from a business point of view, because you may remember, some of you may remember, that there's always something called business ethics. And when we talk about business ethics, managers become responsible to uphold these ethical standards with themselves and with others. What does it mean? This means that they have to implement internal ethical standards and make sure that these standards align with the organization internally and externally. I'll give you an example. If you promise the customer that you're going to deliver something within 5 minutes, within a day, and you don't, and you say, you know what, the customer doesn't know. Well, in reality, you are challenging the ethical standards of the company. That's why it's very important that your goals, you deliver against them. That's why management is so important. Management is so important. Now, there are 4 key points I like to leave you around ethics, okay, that you as a manager or future manager always have to keep in mind when it comes to business ethics. First of all, managers hold the position of authority. Very interesting, because when you become a manager, some authority is given to you, so you become accountable. And you have to conduct that role of ethics in front of yourself and others. That's number 1. Always remember that. And if you are working for a manager who doesn't understand what ethical standard is, then please tell him to read more about it. He or she, it doesn't matter. Number 2, you should always monitor your behavior and that of your employees to make sure that they are in accordance with the organization's expectations, because every organization looks at ethics kind of differently, but they are all very much the same. So there will be differences between companies, but ethics is a very broad field, and there are similarities between companies in a big way. 3, managers should be responsible for creating or implementing changes to ethical codes. That's very true. Because you are the one who is, since you are responsible for the ethics, you have to make sure that you implement changes to the ethical code. For example, many companies, they see that coming on time is something very important. Some other companies don't see coming on time is important. But sometimes this standard becomes part of the ethical conduct of a company. Number 4, managers may also be subject to particular code of professional ethics, depending on their position and training. That's what we call fiduciary duty. So you might hear this word quite a bit. I'll give you an example. If you go to a customer and the customer gives you a very expensive gift, would you accept it or would you reject it? You see, these are the things that I had to face in my life. And thank goodness I had to go through some training. I had a strong code of conduct, but I also had to take training with my companies, and they kind of opened my eyes that there are certain behaviors that impact your ethical code. So if you go to a customer and he gives you a very, very big gift, then he might be influencing your decision. You as a manager, you have authority. This means that you have to be very careful who is influencing your decision. So don't accept gifts from anybody, because you should be independent in your decision making. Now, here comes another question for you. Management is an art and a science, true or false? Let me see if you can answer this one. Here we go. Management is an art and a science. Let me see. Oh my goodness, somebody jumped on board right away. That's fantastic. I want to welcome Abdulaziz Al-Aidi, Abdullah Zahim, Abina, Abraham, Abu Bakr, Saud. Welcome back, Abu Bakr. And I want to welcome all of you for, participating on a regular basis. It gives me great pleasure to see you coming back. I hope I'm making a difference. That's the main thing. All right. So we have some good answers here. We have a couple of interesting answers. All right. All right. Ahmed Galal, he sent us his question. So I'm going to give you 5 more seconds before I stop the voting. Pitch in, guys. Okay. This way you make sure that you are also getting the most out of this webinar. So I'm going to give you 2 more seconds. All right. I'm going to end the voting now. Here we go. let me share with you the results. Here there's the results. So majority of you, well done, 60% of you answered true, and that's very, very good. Some of you answered false, which, okay, I understand, because from your perspective, you never thought of it. So I can appreciate that. But actually, management is both an art and a science. What does it mean? Let's go back to the slides and discuss it very quickly. The science of management, when you are thinking from a science perspective, you actually assume that every problem that you do when you are a manager, you can think it through a rational, logical approach and systematic way. No feelings, no emotions, no intuition. As a matter of fact, you do a particular set of steps. Even your decision making, you follow certain techniques. Notice that what I used here, I used all kind of jargon that I'm away from the feelings and emotions and everything. So this is the science, and pretty much that's what you have been exposed to when you went to university or college, and that's what they taught you. They taught you the science of management. But in reality, management becomes interesting when you become a manager or you join a company. All of a sudden you start realizing that there is much more to management than just the science. Here's an example of science. If a manager has a problem with an employee's poor performance, the manager will look at specific means of performance improvement by applying some of the concepts that they took in business school. You see? So they say, you know what? I took this in business school as a theory. Let me see if I can apply it. But actually, it doesn't work that way all the time. You have to look at the art side. What does it mean? So the art of management means that when you are making decisions and you're trying to solve problems, sometimes you cannot only count on the, the science of things. You have to think intuition, feel with the people. You have to get personal insight in the situation. And this means that you have to communicate very well. You have to listen very well. This means that you have to motivate people. Did you hear that, what I said? Motivation. Motivation is very important. Motivation is an art, by the way. Some science goes into it, but of course it's an art because the way you communicate it, the way you project it. So as you can see, art and science are an important part of management. For example, on the art side, in contrast to the previous example I gave you, a manager has a problem with the employee's poor performance, he is likely to rely on his own experience and judgment when addressing this issue. Did you see that? So the first one is relying on the science and the theories. The second one is saying, you know what? I went through the same thing. I think I can do something here. So when we look at management, in reality, it is a very interesting mix between science and art. And because the title of this program or this course or this webinar is Professional Manager, the more you know how to apply the science and the art in a very balanced way, the more professional you become. I'm going to repeat it again. That's if you strike a very good balance between the science and the art of management, the more professional manager you become. Never, never forget that. So here we go with the next question. I'm going to ask you a question. The 4 basic functions of management are planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. True or false? So here comes question number 4. Let's see if you can answer this question correctly. The 4 basic functions of management are planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. We have Khalid Azzam jumping in. Very, very good, Khalid. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. We also have Ahmed and Fred. Very good. Well done. Very proud of you guys. I'm glad that you're interested in this course because I hope that I see you becoming a manager or a senior manager or a, top manager one day, if you are not already. So I'm going to give everybody another, 5-6 seconds. All right. Very good. All right. I'm going to now end the voting right now. Let me share the results with you. So it looks like we have the 52% participants answering questions, which I'm very happy with. I hope that the rest also will participate. So 30 out of 50 people are contributing to the answer. So definitely the question is true. Now you may have heard of other functions, but these are the 4 basic functions. You have to plan. That's one of the top priorities of management. And then you have to back it with organizing. You have to back it by leading. And you have to back it by controlling, measuring, observing, all of these things. Okay? So here we go. When we look at management, these are the 4 basic functions. Very, very important. What does it mean? So from your perspective, what does it mean? Okay, I'll give you a very nice chart. The following chart is very nice. Look at this. So if you look at these, the following slide tells you a little bit about each one of them. When we talk about planning, even though planning, you don't do it all the time, but the planning has an impact on everything you do every day. So you do it annually or semi-annually, but you're putting the goals that drive your activities on a daily basis. So that's why planning is extremely important. And then organizing. Organizing is something ongoing. And I ask you to always be very good at organizing your activities and those of your people around you. The same thing with leading and influencing. Here comes the fact that it's not enough to plan and organize. You have to influence, direct others, motivate others. That's why leading is so important today. You see, the last segment of this webinar is about leading. So I'm going to share with you some interesting insight into leading. The last one is controlling. Well, basically, that's where you measure performance. Remember what we said at the beginning. If you have a goal, am I achieving those goals? Am I achieving the results? So you have to measure your performance. You have to make sure you compare previous performance versus current performance, and am I heading in the right direction? So these 4 things are critical, and if you do all 4 very, very well, you become a professional manager. And definitely planning is very important, but doesn't mean that the other ones are not important. The other ones are also very important. But if you plan well, you organize very well, you lead very well, and you control very well. Did you see that? All right. Well, I have Ahmed Al-Abran saying that leading is the responsibility of the leader, not the manager. Ahmed will get into that one in a minute. I hope that I hope that I can answer that for you. So here we go. Now, this is how typically management spend their time when it comes to these activities. So as you can see, first level managers, which we typically call first line managers or supervisors, they actually lead a lot. So you see, Ahmed, as a matter of fact, we look at supervisors and managers as leaders as well, because people look up to them. The vice president is not around all the time, but the supervisor and the manager is around all the time, and they influence people through their behavior, through their decisions, how they lead people and everything. And as you can see, controlling is about 10%, planning is about 15%, organizing is about 24%. Middle management, things change a little bit. You still have to play a leading role and influencing role, but organizing is very important. Did you see that? And then, of course, top managers, they have to lead. Of course, everybody has to lead. However, organizing is very important and planning is very important. Because if you remember very well from your job, lots of plans come your way and they tell you, listen guys, we have to deliver this plan, these goals and everything. So you can imagine there are lots of interesting stuff that come your way. Usually they come from top managers who are planning and organizing a lot. And then you as middle management, you have to organize and lead, and first managers, they have to lead and action and implement and execute. Very interesting. So this is a very nice distribution. Always remember, as you progress in your life from first line manager to middle manager to top manager, the percentage you spend on certain activities, the 4 functions, starts changing. And I'm going to tell you one thing right now. This is a very important advice to you. Okay? I'm going to tell you this advice and never forget. As you progress in your career and you keep doing the same thing like you did before, let's sit down and talk. Because every stage of your career requires you distribute your time accordingly. Because if you keep doing the old job, this means that you're stuck in the old job. For example, if you are a first-line manager and you get promoted to middle manager, this means that you have to change the way you do things. This means that if you keep doing things the old way, this means that you are having issues in terms of performance. So every position, every level requires its own distribution of time, and that's something you have to become aware of. Now, let's talk about the competencies. I'm going to ask you a question here. A competency is an underlying characteristic of a person which enables them to deliver superior performance in a given job or role. True or false? So here comes number 5. Let's see how you answer this question. Very good. Let's see if we're going to exceed the 52% that we always get this time. By the way, I appreciate all the interaction in the background. Well done. I'm very, very proud of you guys. This is very, very good. All right. We are reaching the normal threshold. Let's see if we can push a little bit more here. All right. So I'm going to give you a couple more seconds before I stop the voting. So I'm going to end the voting right now. Okay. So I'm going to end the voting and I'm going to share the results with you. Here we go. So this time we have 31 out of 48 people. Thank you. Okay. And the question is true. The answer is true. You see, a competency is a very interesting thing. I'm going to explain competency to you in a minute. And you will see that the competency has 3 key elements. And you have to remember these elements all the time. Bear with me a second as I go back to the slides. So here we go. Now, are you ready? So a competency is an underlying characteristic of a person which enables them to deliver superior performance. So you as a professional manager, you should never be satisfied with mediocre performance, because I want you to be a professional manager. It means that you perform at a superior level in your job or role that you are giving. So competencies are seen from a cluster of 3 things. Did you see that? You have the knowledge, which is right over here. You have the skills, which is right over here. And you have the attitude. So every time we talk about competency, you have to think from these 3 angles: knowledge, skills, and attitude. Okay? So when we talk about knowledge, it relates to the information domain. You know, the information that you collect. And that's similar to going to college. Okay? The same thing when it comes to skills, relates to what ability do you have to do things? Do you have the ability to fix something? You have the ability to speak in a certain way. That's a skill, by the way. But the last one is my favorite one. And this is the one that I always stress upon it. Always I stress upon it. Because it starts with you. Your attitude toward yourself and your attitude toward the others. Now, I'm going to stop here for 2 minutes. When you think of yourself in a high way, in a very important way, I like that. Because you are the most important person. This means that your attitude toward yourself, I'm not asking you to be cocky, or I'm not asking you to be, to show off, not at all. But I want you to be confident about yourself, positive. The positivity of your position makes a difference. So very important that you have a positive attitude. Think about it this way. Have you met a manager who has a negative attitude? What do they do as a negative attitude? When you tell them about a situation, they always point a problem. But if you have a positive attitude and you ask, and the manager has a positive attitude, and you tell them about the issue, they tell you, let's work on the solution. So there's a big difference between a negative attitude manager and a positive attitude manager. And the positive attitude manager can develop their skills and their knowledge the right way. I'm going to share with you a very interesting chart. We call it the competency iceberg or the attitude iceberg. Here you go. This iceberg is very important. You probably have seen it before. But as you can see, knowledge is something I can influence very, very easy. I can send you to college or to a course and I say, you know what, go to Meirc and attend the course. So it's very influence. I made a very fast decision. You go there and you learn the theory, the facts, the practice and everything. But it has not become a skill yet, a habit yet. So all of a sudden, when you come back to work, I as a manager, I have to influence that knowledge to make it a skill. So whether it is teamwork, strategic thinking, leadership, decision-making, all of these things are important skills. But at the bottom of it is where it makes a difference. If I am punctual, I'm respectful, if I'm caring, if I'm motivated, if I have integrity or ethics, if I have a sense of humor, all of that will affect the way I apply my skills and the way I acquire my knowledge. So I want you to promise yourself. Don't promise me, promise yourself. Always, always have a positive attitude toward things. Don't be too positive, but be a positive person. Think good about yourself. Be proud of yourself, okay? It makes a difference in your life. Now, so Another thing about competencies, this interesting fellow, these two guys over there, Herrigel, Jackson, and Slocum, they wrote a very nice book, by the way. I suggest you look it up. It's a university book, but they are very influential in the field of management. They said there are 6 core competencies that you should always look for when you are a manager. One is communication competency. Did you see that? You have to be a very good communicator. As a professional manager, you have to know how to communicate professionally, respectfully. You also have to make sure you plan and administer. We talked about planning and administration, organization. You have to have strategic action competency. This means that you have to think of goals, put goals the right way. Self-management, I love that one because that's where it all starts. It starts with you. You have to have the multicultural competency. This means that you have to understand how to deal with different cultures. Guys, we don't live in our own, place anymore. We live in a global community. And the last one is very important today. You have to know how to work in a team. This is the 21st century utmost important aspect of the business. How do you work as a team? Be very careful. If you don't know how to work as a team, I want you to acquire that. This is very important. But I'd like to stop here for a second. This one is very important for me. Self-management. Why do I stress this one more than anything else? Because developing yourself is your responsibility. It's not your responsibility of the manager. I can send you on training, but if you don't want to learn, you're not going to learn. So it's very important that you want to learn. Second, always make sure that you follow the ethical conduct. Third, make sure that you're resilient. Why? Because you're going to have some tough situations in your life where you may have mistakes, you might, fall behind or something like that. I want you to pick up yourself and always make sure that you move forward. Always move forward. The other thing is, I want you to enjoy your life. Life is not only work and putting 8 hours every day at work. Life is more than that. Exercise, have fun, go out, as long as it is ethical and clean fun. And of course, the last one is be aware of your weaknesses, be aware of your, what things that you need in order for you, in order to improve all the time. So I wanted to stop here for a second because this is very, very critical. So now, here comes another question. The only skills needed by professional managers are technical skills. Let's see, here we go. So can you answer something? The only skills needed by professional managers are technical skills. Emmanuel is on board. Thank you, Emmanuel. Very good. Very good. Excellent. Excellent response. Thank you. Very good. Remember, I want you to think as a professional manager. Are technical skills the only thing you need? I'll give everybody a few more seconds before I close the voting. All right. So here we go. I'm going to end the voting now. So apologies for those who haven't been able to get their answers in. So I'm going to share with you the reply. And the answer is false. Well done, guys. I'm very proud of you. 100% said, the technical side. And I like what Taysir said. He said, Jamal, come on, half is science and half is art, and that's very true. Because technical skills, you look at the science of things, but how about the art side of things? The emotions, the motivations, the experience, all of these things are very critical. So if you learn technical skills, that's great. But if you don't learn how to deal with people, then you are not doing your job as a professional manager. All right, very good. I'm proud of you guys. Very good. Well done. So now here we go. So what are the skills that we usually ask managers to pay attention to? We have conceptual skills, how you think, how you set goals, how you think strategically. Did you hear that? Human, how you deal with people, their issues, their concerns. Do you empathize with them? Do you listen to them? Do you only listen to yourself? And then, of course, the technical side of things. The technical side of things is where if you are a finance person, you learn the technicalities of finance. If you are an engineer, you learn the engineering, the technical side. And I like what Abdulaziz said, that, It could be very close to 80% human side. You have to spend lots of time, but I don't want you to ignore your technical and conceptual skills, please. Very important that you always balance your development on all three. Here comes an interesting chart. Look at this chart, how beautiful it is. This chart is very important. Why? Because it tells you as you progress through your career, conceptual skills start taking over. So as you start as a new manager, you will have lots of technical skills, you will have some human skills, but you don't have lots of conceptual skills. This means that you don't participate in planning as much. As you move to the mid-management, your human skills becomes very big. As you can see, it is the biggest one in the middle management, because the middle management has to speak to top management and they have to speak to lower management. I called it translation. You have to translate lots of things so that you keep the organization connected. And the last one, top management, are the people who put the plans and the goals, and they are the ones who are putting things for the future so that, they drive our activities on a daily basis. Very, very good. So remember this chart, this is very important. These skills are very, very critical. Now, we finished with a couple of modules, but I'd like to talk about coaching a little bit. Now, coaching to me is very important, and this is something I always stress on because as managers, I feel that coaching has become very important. For those of you who are familiar with it, maybe this is a good revision. For those of you who are not familiar with it, please listen carefully because it might give you some interesting hints. So here comes the question. Coaching has nothing to do with management. The place for coaching is in sports. Let's see. Is this correct? Very strong, very strong. Excellent. Abina is participating very well today. Mahmoud as well. Christina, very good. Thank you, Christina. Somebody answered a different question, but let's see. Let's see. We're gonna share with you the answers in a minute. All right, very good. Oh, we reached the halfway point right away. That was phenomenal. Thank you, guys. Now, I'm gonna give you a few more seconds just to make sure that we, give everybody a chance. Good participation, guys. That's very, very good. Well done. Oh, stronger participation. Somebody woke up. Somebody woke up now. So here we go. I'm going to end the voting and I'm going to share the results. So first of all, I want to thank those of you who joined lately, which is fantastic. So as you can see, what do you think? I think that the answer is false. We hear a lot about coaching from a sports perspective, but believe it or not, management and leadership, they learned a lot from sports. We learn a lot from sports. As a matter of fact, we learn how to put teams together. How do you manage egos? How you manage results? All of these things, sports has contributed to the science and art of management. And I consider coaching more of an art than a science, even though some certain steps go into it, which I will share with you in a minute. So coaching is very much important to management today, and I ask you to read more about it, engage with it, understand how it works, because it gives you the extra edge when it comes to managing your people and motivating them. What does it mean? Here we go. Let me share with you the meaning of it. So, as you can see from the slide, organizations that want to capitalize on knowledge-based employees, they need to shift to a consultative and participative management style. I'm going to underline participative. It's no longer a one-way, guys. It's no longer a one-way. Management has changed. Management is about asking people to participate in setting their goals, in solving problems, and doing all kinds of things. And coaching plays a very, very important part here. So always remember that coaching right now is very critical. I recommend highly you learn more about it. Please come and join us on one of the courses because we will ask participants to practice this art. Very important. But look at this. Didn't I tell you that the 4 functions of management, one of them is controlling? This means that controlling will stay, but you're going to transition a little bit away from that and ask people to participate, and you consult them on the role. So while controlling and measuring is still important and monitoring is still important, this means that you have to change your style a little bit because now you want people to participate. And you would like to play a consultative role with your employees or with your colleagues as well. So there is a transition between traditional management and management that integrates coaching into its style. Coaching defined as an ongoing approach to managing people. It creates a motivating climate for performance. So this means it gives you the extra performance, the extra results. It improves a match between what the employee is asking for and their expectations, and it improves the probability of success by the employee. Why? Because they work on their goals, they participate in putting their goals, and they also receive valuable feedback, recognition, clarity, and support. So it's no longer traditional. We need much more than traditional management, and coaching gives you a very important advantage here. These are the roles of a coach or a coaching role: providing direction, not telling people. Did you see that? Providing directions, improving performance, very important today. I don't want the 100%, I want 110%. Opening up possibilities. You talk with the employee about, hey, let's introduce innovative ideas, creative ideas. So as a matter of fact, coaching is quite important today when it comes to creativity. And then, of course, how to remove obstacles. And not I, as a manager, remove obstacles, how we remove obstacles, because I'm going to be testing you on how to remove obstacles. So as you can see, these four main roles are very important in coaching today. As a matter of fact, you as a manager, you can use coaching to keep customers happy, deliver high quality products and services. You manage continuous change, of course, because change today is very, very much knocking on our door almost every day. And then, of course, how do you keep people? Because one of the challenges of companies is retaining people. So if you coach people well, they will love you and they will stick with you. And then, of course, how do you work collaborative as a team, as a network environment? And then you have how to match the personal capabilities with the performance demands. Remember, we talked about competencies. A very good coach, a very good manager knows how to match these two. And then empowerment. Coaching is about empowering a person to think of his or her problems and how to come up with solutions. And then reinforce business practices that are good, solid. And when I talk about business practices, I'm talking about habits. Okay? So, when we talk about coaching, based on the definition from the International Coach Federation, you talk about building a relationship, giving the employee a sense of purpose, and the intention, the objective, the exit, where we're heading, the direction. Here is a very nice example of what happens in the coaching model. When you are coaching somebody, what's happening? First of all, you have to be very supportive. I'm sure that some of you have seen some of the managers being very negative. The coach cannot be negative. Did you see that? A coach cannot be negative. A coach who is negative is not a coach. So being a coach means that you have to be supportive. And then once you are supportive, you have to work on the other key steps that you have in your environment. This means that you have to define the problem, make sure that you establish the impact, how it's going to change things for the individual. Initiate a plan. Initiating a plan means that this individual, he or she has to put a plan how to improve their performance. You get a commitment. The commitment is very important, and that commitment has to come from within. And then, of course, confront excuses. I, as a coach, I will positively confront excuses because, of course, all of us are very good at giving excuses, but not when you are working with a coach. He or she will help you to overcome your excuses because you're trying to build good habits. And then, of course, clarify the consequences. Look, if you keep doing this is what's going to happen. So the coach, in many ways, tells you, he or she, they show you possible outcomes that could be detrimental to your performance. And the coach never gives up. We don't give up on our people. So this is a very nice 8 steps from supportive to never giving up. We always approach these things. And it's very important that you finish with the problem, you start with the problem, and you finish with a positive outcome. Remember this one. Always remember, you start you talk about the problem and you end up with the solution. Never go back to the problem again, okay? Always exit in a positive way. So here we go to motivation. I'm sure that this is something that intrigues you. You like to know more about it. And I like to pull you here. All right. So here comes this question. Can you answer the following about motivation? The carrot and the stick is the best way to motivate employees. Let's see. Bahruddin has answered. Very good. Thank you, Bahruddin. Excellent. Adenduwala, very active today. We also have Taysir. Very good. Excellent. The carrot and the stick is the best way to motivate employees. I have some interesting questions, some interesting answers. I will share with them, with you in a minute, in a few seconds. I just want to give everybody a chance, you know, to answer these things. All right, so here we go. How about if I give everybody 5 more seconds and then I hang up on the voting so that I can share with you the results. All right. I'm going to end the voting right now. Apologies for those who weren't able to submit their answers. Let me share with you the results. Here's the result. So this question is an interesting one. And the carrot and the stick used to be a motivation style, but it's not the best one. It's not the best one. It used to be true, but it's no longer true. Because if you remember, I talked about coaching. Coaching doesn't talk about the carrot and stick. Because the carrot and stick does not develop trust. You see, when you motivate people, you have to develop trust. It's very important you develop trust. And I cannot tell you how important trust is. So there are certain ways, certain approaches that develop trust, and coaching is one of them. So the answer is false. It is a motivator. You can use it, but don't use it a lot. Use it 5% of the time in case you run out of options. But unfortunately, many people use it all the time. You see, what happens is that when you give somebody the carrot, you kind of promise them that, look, if you do this, I will do this. Or if you don't do this, I will punish you, or I penalize you, or I discipline you. That doesn't work very well. Doesn't give you the extra mile from the employee, and doesn't give you the performance, the extra performance that you want from people. You have to apply it if everything else doesn't work. But unfortunately, what happens with managers, they apply it all the time. So they don't get the most out of their employees. So it's a choice, but don't make it the de facto choice. Make it only 2-3% of your time, apply it. Use other ways to motivate people. There are a lot of better ways to motivate people. So here we go. We go back to this one. So thank you for responding. Very good. I'm very proud of you. Motivation is literally the desire to do things. So the question here is, if you are in your job, do you feel motivated? And if you don't, ask yourself, why I am not motivated? It could be the atmosphere, it could be the environment, it could be the manager, it could be your pay salary, it could be so many things. But remember, you are in control. That's what I said at the beginning. You are in control. You as a professional manager or aspiring professional manager, you should be able to control yourself, and your emotions should be self-aware. Always work on your motivation and making yourself stronger in all aspects of professional management. So motivation is defined as the process that initiates, guides, and maintains goal-oriented behavior. This means that, you see the difference between the carrot and the stick? You see, when I develop goals, I become self-motivated. And if I participate in these goals, I become even more motivated to deliver those goals. So that's why coaching is very important. When a coach sits down, or a manager sits down who has coaching skills, he sits down with the employees and he talks about these things, they become more motivated. Why? Because I'm giving something from myself to deliver these goals. Now, employee motivation is their willingness to exert higher level of effort for the organizational goals. This means that if the atmosphere is the right atmosphere, people will give you more. But if the atmosphere is not right, and by the way, do you know who creates the atmosphere? Management and leadership. So if leadership is not creating the right atmosphere, there you go, there goes the motivation. So it's very important that you as a professional manager create the atmosphere that motivates. Always have goals-oriented people. Always give people the sense of goal-oriented aspect of doing a business. Let them know where they're heading. Communicate with them very well. These are very important aspects of personal growth. So when we talk about motivation, there are 3 key components: organizational goals, the effort that you're putting, and the needs. Organizational goals means the strategic goals of the company. Effort is how much work do you need to do a particular job, and state that makes certain outcomes appear attractive. So what's in it for me? And that's where you should always ask, is this something that motivates me, that I do my job? And you will not get everything that you like in your work. Sometimes you will get certain jobs that you don't like. So again, you have to strike a balance, and you have to find a way to do the good job and sometimes not so good job. But however, when we talk about motivation, we also look about jobs, the job. How are you performing the job itself? This means that, are you motivated? Are you able? And do you have the environment? Did you see? I just talked about this one. First of all, am I motivating you the right way? Ability, am I enabling you? Am I building the competencies and the skills? Atmosphere, the environment. For example, do I give you the tools? Do I not give you a nice desk? Do I give you a well-lit office? Do I always give you feedback? That's creating the environment, guys. So as you can see, job performance is very much linked into these three factors. So when you are looking at your job, always ask yourself, do I have the motivation, self or from outside, the ability, and the environment? Motivation theories are divided into two. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I just like to go into the leadership and make sure I wrap up things today for you. One of them is need-based and process-based. Need-based and process-based. When we talk about need-based, I'll just mention a few theories. I want you to go to the web and look them up, or come and join us and we will talk about these things. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, very famous. Herzberg two-factor. Okay, two-factor theory, where he talks about the motivations that employees expect and motivations that employees don't expect. And the needs theory. Okay, McClelland's needs theory is a very interesting one. So these are from a needs perspective. However, from a expectancy perspective, or process-based, you have the equity theory. That's where people start comparing each other. This says, listen, that person is getting more of a salary than I. Well, this is very important that you don't compare yourself to anybody else. Be fair. Let the company be fair to you, but don't spend time comparing yourself to others. Okay, it's very important that you channel your energy the right way. And you have the expectancy theory and reinforcement theory. Now, whenever we talk about motivation in the workplace, you have to look at the job. Is it a well-designed job? Do we have the right goals? And am I giving the performance feedback? And do I have the compensation system, the reward system in place? What does this mean? Whenever you work on these things, always look at these four things whenever you want to have a motivated work environment. Okay? And is the audio working? Yeah? So, and to get there, you have to make sure that the goals are set properly. And whenever we set goals, you have to talk about SMART goals. And I'm sure you're very familiar with this. SMART goals mean specific, measurable, aggressive, or agreeable, realistic, or relevant, and time-bound. So always make sure that your goals are set the SMART way using this approach. Performance appraisals are important. Always ask for it. Always make sure to always make sure that you ask for your appraisal. That's very important part of your growth, part of your plans. And whenever you conduct the appraisal, there's something you need to do before, during, and after the meeting. Remember, the appraisal meeting is very important for you. Always plan before. This means that to review what you have done. During the meeting, be ready to discuss your achievements. And after the meeting, what are your plans for the next year? Other things that helps with motivation, especially in a multicultural environment, you have to lead with example, focus on the task. You have to always be respectful of others, always establish, a vision and goals, and don't assume, please don't assume. Professional managers don't assume, okay, things about others. Leadership, last module I'm going to talk about. Managers cannot be leaders. True or false? Let's see. Let me ask for your participation here. Something's wrong with the audio, apparently. Okay. If there's something wrong with the audio, I understand that there are some participants complaining about the audio. We're checking it here, but my colleague and my friend Mr. Maroof is telling me that no, Jamal seems to be okay. So please check something, maybe something went wrong on your side while we keep checking on our side. All right. Very good participation, well done. We're almost done with today, so bear with me a few more slides and then we wrap up the day. I'll give you 5 more seconds and then I'm going to end the voting. Yes, I want to thank you for your participation, being patient. That's very good, thank you. All right, so I'm going to end up the voting now. So, share the results. Managers cannot be leaders. Well, leaders come from managers, so managers can be leaders. However, not all managers can be leaders, but leaders can be managers. But not all the managers are made up to be leaders, but many managers become leaders because they have the necessary skills to be leaders. Remember, if you look at your vice presidents and presidents, they were managers one day. So of course they can be leaders. But today we're asking managers to become more of leaders than before. What does it mean? So leadership is something complex. All of these wonderful individuals that you see on the screen, they are leaders in their own right. And at some stage in their life, they were not leaders, but they managed to find the leadership skills. So the answer is managers can be leaders. Okay? And so leadership is a complex process by which a person influences others to accomplish the mission. Leaders, they influence. Please remember that. Please remember that. Leaders influence. Managers manage. Now, this is a very nice slide, a comparison between what managers do and leaders do. So as you can see, management versus leaders, as you can see, managers administer what the leader innovates. Manager is a copy, the leader is an original. Manager maintains, the leader develops. The manager focuses on systems and structures, the leader focuses on people. I'm not going to do all of them. I'm not going to go through all of them. But as you can see here, lots of the things on the right-hand side are being asked from the managers to do today. Managers are being asked to develop people. Managers are being asked to be more inspiring. Managers are being asked to ask more the why. Managers are being asked to be challenging, more challenging. So all of these things are part of the manager's life today. So I want you to understand that don't be just a manager, be a professional manager with some very strong leadership skills. Now, characteristics of a leader: you have to be decisive, aware, be focused, accountable, of course, because when you become a leader, you're not only responsible for the task, you are accountable as well. Empathize with people so that you can hear them, listen to them, develop them. Be confident. Be optimistic. Leaders are optimistic because leaders also look into the future. And if they only see red, they develop bad goals. But if they see green and positive things, they develop solid goals. I'll give you an example. I would like you to read about Elon Musk. I like you to read about Elon Musk because he is a person who is influencing our life in many ways. He's a very positive person. And I tell you one thing. He is very decisive, very aware, very accountable, very empathetic. He has some very interesting and strong capabilities when it comes to leadership. You may not like him, but I see in him many traits that are covered here. At the same time, there are certain, leadership styles based on the intelligence, emotional intelligence of a leader, and we talk about emotional intelligence in our course. Leaders can be commanding, visionary, affiliative, democratic, pace-setting, and coaching. And you can see coaching is very highly emotionally intelligent. And you will use all of these styles, but always use the styles that are positive. Coaching is very positive. Democratic is positive. Affiliative is positive. But some of them, if you want fast results, you may use other ones. But remember, always strike a balance in your leadership style. Now, I'm coming close to the end. This is a description of each one of them. I will leave it here for a second, but remember, these are the negative and the positive advantage and disadvantage of every style, depending on your emotional intelligence. And what do we mean by emotional intelligence? How you handle yourself. Are you self-aware? Are you emotionally aware of your feelings? Do you manage yourself well? Because once you are self-aware, you become socially aware and you become more of an influencer in the society that you're in. This is a very important slide. and it talks about each one of these styles of leadership which you will be applying as a professional manager. Okay? Last but not least, there are 6 levels of leadership that we usually talk about. The first one is the solution. Basically, you focus on solutions, and then you move into the best practice, and then you become a strategic leader, and then transformation leader, where you change things around you. Global leader, you take more and more global roles, and then captain of society, you start impacting the society that you're in. These 6 levels, I talk about them quite a bit in the course, especially on the 4th day of the course, and we do an assessment and a summary for each one of them, and we ask and we try to see which level are you in and how do you move forward. This is very critical, okay? Now, I want you to develop some habits as a leader, and these habits come from a very, very famous book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I'm going to talk about this book a little bit about in the references, but always be proactive. Begin with the end in mind. This means that put goals in your life. Put things first. Put first things first. This means that you have to prioritize. Always think win-win. This means that think collaboration. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. This means that you have to develop some very strong listening skills. Synergize. This means that you have to put ideas together and learn how to cooperate. And always sharpen your soul. This means that always work on yourself and develop yourself. Well, these are the books. These are some excellent references for you. We have Peter Drucker, The Effective Executive. I love the second one, by the way. The second one is about overcoming the 5 dysfunctions of a team. This is written by one of my favorite writers. His name is Patrick Lencioni. I love the writer. He writes in a very nice way. I suggest you get the book. The Circle of Innovation. Today, as a professional leader, you have to be creative and innovative. By Tom Peters. I cannot speak enough about the 4th one. Edward Deming. Out of the Crisis. He is the father of quality. So he's a fantastic person to read about. And then, of course, you have the book by Hamel and Prahalad about competing for the future. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And then you have How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Very important books for those who would like to become influential leaders, and so on and so forth. So these are 10 fantastic books that you can read about. Last but not least, I read you with the schedule for our training. We have something coming up in May. Would love to see you there. We also something coming up in August and September, November, December. I love to see you in these courses. And if you can't make it, I hope that this webinar has been an eye-opener for you. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending this, a few hours with us, an hour and 10 minutes with us. And I hope it added value to yourself. I'm more than happy to spend the next couple of minutes asking questions, answering questions. So if you have any questions, please go ahead. Otherwise, in a couple of minutes, I will go ahead and hang up and let you go back to your work. And thank you again for your participation. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Habibi. Well done. Khaled, thanks a lot. I hope that you enjoyed, all of you, the course, the webinar. All right. Adenduela, thank you for being with us today. Mario, take care. Isaac, okay. We have certificates for the course. This is not, yes, in the course, if you attend with us the course, you will get the certificate. But for this webinar, we don't give certificates. Sorry about that one. Sayyid Haider, you're asking for the presentation. You can email me to jsaeed@meirc.com, the email right in front of you, and I will send you a copy of the presentation. All right. Melissa, thank you, Melissa, for being with us today. And we have Muhammad Al-Mur. Thank you, Muhammad. Isaac, Abdul Aziz. So I will hang up in the next 10 seconds, and I would like to wish you a wonderful weekend.
Meirc.com